This is what we will be covering in the next part of your Unit 9. It is not in our Unit 9 foldable. This is the missing section out of your Unit 8 foldable. So remember I had told you to hold on to your Unit 8 foldable and we would finish it later? Well, it's later. So go back to your Unit 8 foldable, and this will be covering geometric mean. So turn to the fourth flap, and it looks like this. And this goes over geometric mean. So it says when an altitude is drawn to the hypotenuse of a right triangle, the two right triangles formed are similar to the original right triangle. So all that means is that we do have three separate triangles on this larger triangle. There is this big one right here. It will be our big green triangle. And I suggest that you always redraw all three of them. It is much easier to set up our similarity statements. So this one is actually A, B, C. And then we have this medium-sized triangle right here. And it is B, D, C. And then we have the smallest triangle. And that is ADB. Now it means whenever you redraw them like this, they're all similar, and they're already set up for each sides that are similar. So we're going to use this to solve different triangles like this. So we have our biggest triangle, and again, I always suggest that you redraw the three separate triangles. It will make your life so much easier. So we have our biggest triangle, and this one is Z, and I will always do a little mark like that for Z so you don't get them confused with 2. Z, Y, and 12. And you have your medium triangle, which is X, 10, and Y. And then you have your smallest triangle, which is 2, Z, and X down here. So the easiest thing for you to do is just to solve for X first. It just kind of makes sense. So you need to find your X's. So there's one here and one here. So we're using the bottom leg and the left leg. So we need to use the bottom leg and the left leg of both triangles. So there's my bottom and left leg of both triangles. Now we're going to set up proportional fractions, just like we did proportions before. So our first problem is x over 10 is equal to 2 over x. It looks just like this, okay? So let's cross multiply, and x times x is x squared. That is equal to 10 times 2, which is 20. You take the square root of both sides, and x is the square root of 20. And I am just fine with you leaving it like that. You do not have to put it in your calculator and figure out the fraction. I'm okay with you leaving it as a square root. So next, let's do our y's. So there is a y here and a y here. So we're using the bottom leg and the hypotenuse. So let's circle those and make our fractions. So it is 12 over y is equal to y over 10. And we cross multiply. Y squared is equal to 12 times 10 is 120. Take the square root of both sides, and y is the square root of 120. And again, I am just fine with you leaving it as the square root of 120. Lastly, we need to solve for z. So we have a z here, we have a z here, and it is using the left leg and the hypotenuse. So left leg and hypotenuse, left leg and hypotenuse. And here are your fractions. There's that one and that one. So 12 over z is equal to z over 2. And you cross multiply. Z times z is z squared is equal to 12 times 2 is 24. Take the square root of both sides. Z is equal to the square root of 24. And we are now done with that problem. Next problem, and again, redraw your 3 triangles. Here's your biggest triangle. So this one will be V here, W here, and we have to add these two together. So U plus 3 is actually my hypotenuse for my largest. Then our medium triangle. Nine, U, and W. And then our smallest triangle. 3, 9, and V. Now, because of this right here, it would really help us out a lot if we could figure out what U is first. So we have a U here, and there is no other U. So it actually is very helpful because on this furthest right triangle, there are 2 numbers. So let's go ahead and use those 2 numbers to our benefit, and we will use the 2 legs to solve for U. So we have 9 over U is equal to 3 over 9. Cross multiply, U times 3 is 3U. 9 times 9 is 81. So U is 27. So now, instead of this U here that's on our purple, we're going to erase it and we're going to write in 27. And instead of this U here, we will have 27, which would be 27 plus 3, which is really just 30. And that made our life so much easier since we did that first. Now we have enough information where we could do either V or W next. It's really just your choice. I'm choosing to do V next, only because it's next in alphabetical order. So we have a V for our left leg and a V for our hypotenuse. So here we go, left leg and hypotenuse. There's our fractions. So 30 over V is equal to V over 3. Cross multiply. V squared is equal to 30 times 3, which is 90. Take the square root. And V is just the square root of 90. And again, it's perfectly fine if you leave it that way. Now we have W on the bottom and W on the hypotenuse. So bottom and hypotenuse. Here's our fractions. 30 over W equals W over 27. Cross multiply, we have W squared is equal to 30 times 27, which is 810. Take the square root of both sides. W is just the square root of 810, and that is perfectly fine. We have now found all of our letters. In this one it says, a surveyor positions himself so that his line of sight to the top of the cliff and his line of sight from the bottom form a right angle, as shown. What is the height of the cliff to the nearest foot? So it wants to know how high this cliff is, this entire length right here. And right now it just tells us that this bottom half is 5.5. That's only what this is. So in order to figure out the total, we're going to call this part that we're missing is x. So let's go ahead and draw our three triangles. There is the largest one here. And the only thing that we know is this hypotenuse of the largest, which is just x plus 5.5. Then we have our medium triangle, which is 28 and x. And then we have our smallest triangle, which is 5.5 and 28. So right now the only two variables we have is this x here with the purple and this x on the hypotenuse. But since this one is the x by itself, we're going to use this one. And so on this triangle we have x and a 28 for the two legs. On this other one we have two numbers with the two legs, so it'd be easiest to use those first. So we have 28 over x is equal to 5.5 over 28. And you cross multiply. 5.5x is equal to 28 times 28, which is 784. Divide by 5.5, and x is 142.5. So that's just what this x is. It is 142.5. In order to figure out what the entire length is, we need to know what this whole thing is. We need to add these two together. So 142.5 plus 5.5, which is then equal to 148 feet. That's how tall the cliff is. And this concludes the geometric mean part of Unit 9.